Hello everyone, this is Clifford Ken from Peas and Chips Production. Welcome back to our USEU Arena Breakdown series. This is a series where we'll be covering how to create a complete game using Unreal Engine blueprints. And we'll be breaking down USEU Arena, one of the games I've just completed, to show how we did this. If you'd like to see all the topics that we're going to be covering, don't forget to check out our previous introduction video. Today we're going to be covering choosing your game and choosing the scope of your game. So let's get started. So I'm sure at this point in time that you have a game in mind that you want to create. And I'm sure it falls into probably one of these categories. RPG, FPS, RTS, arcade, turn-based, open world, sci-fi, fantasy, cardboard, board game, sports, adventure. There's a lot of types of games out there, aren't there? And my point is, in all of this, is that it actually doesn't matter what type of game you want to create. As long as you are excited about creating a game, or you enjoy that particular type of game. You're interested in it, there's something new about it, there's something that you want to change about it, or there's a challenge that you personally want to do with regards to that type of game, or you just want to express yourself, or you want to do something that's completely different. These are the important things to have when wanting to create and choosing your game. Basically, you have to love it.
I love it. I love it.
And the reason for that is that games take a long time to make, and they're very time consuming, and they require a lot of effort. So all of these sort of qualities that you feel towards your game are the things that are going to fuel the completion of your game. So you've chosen the game, you've chosen the type of game, at least you have it in your head, and the sky's the limit. So this is one of the pitfalls for people starting to create a game, is that the sky is the limit. There's so much. Where do you start? What do you do? Can I even create that sort of game? And then very often I hear people coming onto forums saying, "Oh, I want to create something like Skyrim or an open world game because I love playing that game and it does excite me," and that's great. And then somebody says, no, you're thinking too big. Just start small, maybe create a Tetris game or something like that. You could do that, but do you necessarily enjoy playing Tetris? So why not work towards something that you enjoy first? But yes, we do agree, start small. And how do you start? Well, first thing you need to do is choose your scope very carefully. By choosing your scope correctly, you'll be able to have a greater chance at succeeding in actually creating something from beginning to end. So think big, but yes, start small and choose your scope. So, how do I choose my scope? Well, great thing is that constraints are the thing that's going to help you to choose it. Constraints are good. Constraints can actually spur innovation. More importantly, they will define scope for you. So there's less thinking involved and less uncertainty. Constraints also help define your game itself. So you've got this grand idea. Then you apply your constraints to this idea or to your game type. And with those constraints, more often than not, the type of game that you create will almost automatically pop up. Here is a list of constraints that will help you to create your scope. Your team size. Are you a lone wolf, single developer? Do you have, or maybe you have a group of people, 5 people, 10 people, the whole company. Time. How much time do you want to spend on this before you actually want to complete it or release it? You might have a deadline. Could be a personal one. The obvious one, money. Money and time, team size, all of these are very much related. Often you can buy some time if you have some money. If you have no money, if you've got lots of time, then you can still complete it. Skills. What skills are available to your team? Are you primarily a group of artists or 3D modelers with some basic programming skills? Or are you primarily a developer? Or do you have a range of skills across your team? What are you good at? Tools. The tools that are available to you also sort of dictate what you can create. Do you already have a game engine? Do you have, or are you starting from scratch, just writing from C++? What are the capabilities of those tools? And then hardware. This is what your game is going to be running on. Different types of hardware will necessarily dictate certain design features of your game, such as if you're running it on mobile, you probably don't have a controller. It's a game that's going to be touch-based. You have a full PC. You've got a mouse and keyboard. Is it on console? Then you have basic controllers. So, what do you do with these constraints? You apply these constraints to your core features.
Blah, blah, blah. Who's your friend? Man.
Core features are the things that make your game the type of game that it is. So this could be like the core game mechanic or the core game loop. So let's find an example. Let's use USEU Arena as an example. I want to create a VR game. Why? Because it's exciting, interesting, new. I want to make it an arcade shooter because I enjoy arcade shooters such as Geometry Wars, Super Stardust, Robo Recall, Cyvaria, Dead and Buried, Doom. And I want to add movement because it's something that's a little bit different in the VR space at the moment. Right. I want to create a VR arcade shooter with movement. So let's apply my constraints. The team size.
There can be only one.
Just me. Time. But about 1 year to create that. Why? Because I have no money. So these are pretty big constraints. But
what I do have are a very particular set of skills.
and that is I'm primarily a developer. But I do have some 3D modeling, animation, texturing, audio editing, and photo editing skills. While I may not be an expert at them, it does cover a fair wide base. Tools. Well, I've got the Unreal Engine, which is AAA, amazing engine that's just given away for free. Can't believe it. However, I'm going to be using Blueprint. So that will add some limitations. And the rest, Blender, GIMP, Inkscape, Audacity. There's also, don't really add any constraints there, that kind of covers the base. So I've got some tools available. Hardware. I'm going to be doing this with a VR headset because this is a VR game. This does limit me in some ways because within the VR space, comfort is quite an important thing. Can't just do anything. People with motion, etc., people can get a little bit sick if you don't apply this quite correctly. And it's a front-facing and 360 options available. I've got motion controls, so I'm not too limited. Actually, this gives me more options in terms of scope, but it's something that I'm probably going to have to work towards. 3 degrees or 6 degrees of freedom motion. Minimum requirements GTX 970. That has to run at 90 frames per second, which gets rendered twice, one for each eye. This probably tells me that I'm not going to be able to create all the bells and whistles that you would normally see on a flat 2D game. So what are the core features of my game? You need a movable character and shoot at enemies in an environment. Now, if I didn't apply any scope to this, these core features would apply to a game such as Space Invaders, but it would also apply to a game such as Doom Eternal. And there is a very big difference between these games, and a very big difference in scope. So I'm just going to use Doom Eternal as a comparison to what maybe would happen with USEU Arena. So let's see what constraints maybe Doom Eternal has. They had a very large team. It took many years, had many years to create this, and huge amounts of money. With the top skills and ID Tech 7 in-house creations, top class as well, and they had to run this on the PC and the console. So not very many constraints here. And that's why they were able to achieve a lot. So let's have a look. They have a character that's you can use, unbounded. You can do pretty much what you want with them, I think. You can jump, shoot. You've got a mouse, keyboard, and the controllers, and you can have a very detailed character. And many weapons, many detailed models, animations, many enemies, complex behaviors, detailed models as well for the enemies and animations, and many environments that were detailed and large. So that's pretty amazing. While Doom didn't have very many tight constraints, I'm pretty sure that they did not have an infinite amount of money and an infinite amount of time to create it. They probably also had other constraints which were related to their franchise, as in it had to be a Doom game. So already there we can see that you'd have to have it in Mars fighting enemies from hell. So now let's look at USEU Arena. Single dev, 1 year, no money, using Unreal Blueprints PCVR. So in terms of the core features, we can have our characters is bounded in terms of what type of movements they can create. This is from a VR perspective. They need to use the teleporting or clever use of motion. My character is probably going to be relatively simple. This is constrained by my skills and time. The type of number of weapons, probably only have a few. As long as I can actually shoot, I'll probably be very happy with that. The models could also be simple and too little or no animation. depending on skills, you can offset with that with time. So if you're a very skilled animator, it's going to take you a lot quicker to create animations, so you could probably have more. In this option, I could possibly have many enemies, as long as the behaviors are simple, so that the programming is easy, and the models are simple. And once again, try to stay away from those animations. Also, the environments, probably a few environments, simple. They will have to be 3D when on mobile, and relatively small. That's one option. With those same constraints, I could still have a bounded character and a simple one, but maybe I only choose one type of weapon. And because I'm only creating one weapon, I can have more detailed models and a more detailed animation for that weapon. Instead of many enemies, I could reduce the number of enemies and increase and put more time into the models and animations as well, still having simple behaviors, and I could reduce the number of environments that we have and therefore put more detail into them, but probably still small. A third option with those same constraints would be, okay, still bounded due to VR, put a little bit more detail into the characters, have only one gun, and also put more effort into the model and animations. But how did I get there? Maybe I offset it that I only have one enemy. And instead of having many, I simply put more effort into having complex behavior for this enemy. So maybe we're chasing around in an environment after each other. But to only have one enemy, they have to be pretty smart. Maybe something like Alien Isolation. Your main enemy is the alien, but it's very, very smart. And once again, having very few environments with a bit more detail into it. And you can keep going along in this way, creating different options for the type of game that you want to create, using your constraints and balancing them out across your features. So there are many more options that could probably happen here. So now you have a game idea that you enjoy, and that is going to help you create from beginning to end. And you have a game scope that you feel is manageable and that you can actually complete. But you have a few options and a few unknowns. What do you do next? Well, that is what we're going to be covering on in our next video. Taking your initial idea and concept and applying that together with your scope to help you to choose, getting started, and prototyping. Thank you for watching the USEU Breakdown series on choosing your game and choosing your scope. If you need a reminder of what the series will be covering, don't forget to watch our previous video, which highlights all the topics that we will be covering. Our next video will be about applying your initial concept to the scope options that you have, getting started, and prototyping. So please like and subscribe. Do not miss those videos. See you then.